All right, welcome everybody to another video. I am creating these random videos of me doing stuff, whether it be studying, struggling with leak code, or just data structures and algorithms, or just coding in general. Um, yeah, today, right now, is the big day. It's the day before the big day, meaning I have an interview coming up tomorrow in the morning. And hopefully I land this interview, or land the job, I mean, or do well at the interview because I don't really have too many other options available. And to be honest, with my confidence level is like a five, because I guess with I don't know if this is just going to be a complete ramble about things, but I think the thing about um, I guess the thing about studying for an interview is the fact that you don't know what the different topics are going to be. So you might be studying. I've been to a number of interviews where I would look at the key qualifications and then guess, okay, these are the things I need to study because they're going to ask me these types of questions, and then they ask me completely different questions. Or I'll do pretty good at the behavioral part, or they ask me a question and I just don't remember the particulars of the trivia, or might ask me a system design question and I don't know all the different key services to make certain things performant, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so there'll just be a lot of situations where it's either going to be a behavioral interview I don't want to say everyone, but with interviews, they're always going to be a behavioral interview. They're going to ask you questions, scenarios, and stuff, and then they're going to listen to your response. Then there might be trivia where they'll ask you things related to the language, which is the reason why I created these deck of cards where it has like interview questions related to Laravel, interview questions related to PHP. Then I have another deck which is like the FIU, because that's where I'm trying to get a job at, and it's just a mixture of Laura. It's not a mixture of Laravel. It's a mixture of PHP, MySQL, database, API type questions. Uh, and I just got all the best questions I could find and just threw them here and see if I can answer all of them. Um, if I could do more rambling, I was just going to say that the point I was actually making is, even though the categories of behavioral, data structures and algorithms, trivia, or system design questions, those are the four categories typically. You don't know what type of data structure and algorithm they're going to have. You don't know what behavioral interview questions going to happen. You don't know what was I mentioning, the different trivia they're going to ask. This is why I'm like, I have such a wide range of different topics, or several different topics regarding PHP, Laravel, MySQL, or even API, because I know they mentioned API. They also mentioned Salesforce, but I told them I don't have any knowledge about Salesforce, so there's that as well. But part of me sort of feels like this is pointless to even do the studying, because again, I don't know if they're even going to ask me trivia level questions, and if they are, what are the questions, and are the questions that they ask are even going to be the questions that I just pulled from the web in order to review. But like I just mentioned, within this deck of cards, there's like several uh, different things, from the database to MySQL to PHP and stuff, and API, and I think some other things where I felt like, okay, this might be something they might ask me. Because, okay, let's look at the first question. What is the difference between an index and a composite index in a database? And from what I gathered, an index allows you to pretty much mark a column within the table, which it enables you to um, look up that record faster based on that index. So usually you index IDs of a table of each record, or each record will have an ID, or yeah, probably just IDs. And typically with an index, it, you can only index one, but composite index, you can index multiple different columns and put them in a particular order, uh, which I think is good for querying if you know you're going to probably query something and it's going to include these two indexes. Probably really good for composite indexes are probably really good for like many to many tables because you'll always have the one to one the relationship of like I don't know, let's say what is going to be many to many. What are some ideas of things that be many to many? There'll be I don't know. I can't really think of. Let's say there's a product, there's users, um, a user can order many products, and there's many products that can be associated with the user. So you could put like a user's products page or something like that. So it has like the user ID and the product ID. I think that's what would be best for composite. I'm just rambling right now, but it is a single column to speed up the lookup performance. A composite index is covering multiple columns in a specific order. It optimizes queries, filtering, or sorting by column simultaneously. This is good. Um, what's the difference? Now, this is a Laravel question. Oh, it even says so. What is the difference between chunk, lazy, and cursor in Laravel Eloquent when processing huge data sets? So, for lazy and cursor method, they both use the generators, and from what I remember, generators it allows you to iterate over sets of data without actually using memory to store it in an array. And this generators are primarily used to either retrieve large data sets or do um, file processing of large data. So you're able to iterate over data without doing, I guess, retrieve using as much memory resource to store it in a data structure like an array. But in any case, chunking, I think chunking you do, it's like you make multiple batches of the query. Like if there is a large data set, you get the data in chunks, um, which allows it to not use as much memory. Cursor, I think, uses a generator, like I was just explaining. Um, and lazy uses the generator, but does something else. Let me actually read this. Runs multiple database queries, fetching records in batches to keep RAM low. It executes chunked queries under the hood, but returns a generator collection stream. Okay. Okay, that's what lazy does. It chunks queries under the hood and returns a generator collection stream. Cursor runs one single query. Oh, hold up, I gotta sneeze. And streams records one by one using a generator. Lowest memory footprint, but holds the DB connection open longer. I want to return back to that. How does a pagination impact database performance on deep pages? And how do you solve it? I think um, I think if there's like a large set of rows, doing offset is not the most performant way to retrieve the queries, but I can't think of anything else. Traditional offset pagination forces the database to read and discard thousands of rows before returning results, causing slow response time. So the solution is to use key set pagination or recursive pagination, which uses index primary key stamps. Index using primary keys or timestamps. Okay, that's interesting. I'll put this as good. I don't think that's going to be on. I'm going to put anything that I feel like is not probably going to be asked of me. I'm put for 10 minutes. What is database pooling and why is it essential for high throughput APIs? I don't think this will even be considered um, high throughput APIs. I think pooling is probably like a connection. I don't know. I feel like it's like a group of of different. I don't know. instances that can be connected to the database, or I think it's going to be a cluster or something. Connecting to the database incurs high TCP and SSL handshake latency. Connection pooling maintains a persistent pool of open database connections reused by incoming API requests, drastically reducing handshake. Okay, it's a persistent pool, so it's a cluster. I guess it's a cluster of database connections that will constantly be reused by API requests. I don't think this is going to be on a test if anyone ever if they ever ask me something to that effect, I'll be like, bro, I don't know. What are the critical production caching methods in Laravel to optimize performance? Oh, production caching. What are the critical production cache? Well, I would think caching the database, caching API calls, or I guess endpoints. I would think um, caching. Do you need to cache environmental variables? You probably don't, but API calls for sure. I think you would be able to cache database and the commands. I mean, I don't know. Combine configurations into a single file. Okay, yeah, you can. Oh, you can cache events, event listeners, and precompile all templates to vanilla PHP. That's great. Okay, combines configuration files into single array. Route. I don't think they will ask me this. I think they might ask me things about caching, but I don't think they ask me about the different caching commands. Why should you use queue jobs for long running processes, and what handles them in production? Um, I do think that if there is a chance that processing some type of data or file is going to take a long time, there's a likelihood that the connection or there might be some type of break in the connection. So this is why you have queue jobs in order to have a queue of different jobs that you want to run, and if it fails, you can retry the job. And what handles them in production? Oh, with this like, I would think Amazon SQS because that's a queue service. Um, RabbitMQ. Let me see what the answer is. Uh, Heavy operations, sending email, heavy operations, image processing, external API calls, delayed HTTP response time, pushing them to queue offloads to work to a background process so the API responds instantly. Production runner, what handles in the production runner? Okay. Process managers like supervisor keep the work running continuously in the background. Process managers like supervisor. That might be something they'll ask me. What is Laravel Octane? They might ask me about this too. And how does it achieve high performance? I think this is a caching. I think this is like some type of caching service, possibly. An application server manager built on Roadrunner and Franken PHP that boosts your application into RAM, boots your application to RAM once and keeps it in memory across HTTP requests, eliminating overhead booting the framework on every single. Okay, so it boots your Laravel application into memory once. It keeps the memory across HTTP requests, so it doesn't get so the application doesn't boot up every time an HTTP request happens. Okay, got you. Maybe they'll ask me this. How can you optimize eloquent queries when retrieving specific columns? Um, Indexing, I would think indexing, having select queries, um, preloading them if there's any type of relationships. So I know there's like there's like what is it? I think there's something called load. There's something called width. So if you're running a query and it's another query that's like the relationship of that query doing like load and then there's already like what we were just what I already just went over, which is like caching, not caching, like cursor, which is doing using like PHP generators to iterate over the data instead of just storing it, creating an array from RAM to store it in memory. So I would think, yeah, indexing, getting the specific type of columns you need, reducing the relationships or preloading the relationships or doing some type of like iteration that doesn't consume so much RAM. Use selector only to fetch only the columns required by the View API instead of, yeah, I already mentioned that. I think I'm good on this. How does Redis improve Laravel caching and session performance comparable to file database drivers? Compared to file database drivers, okay, Redis is a in-memory database. Uh, so instead of actually getting data from disk drives that you would get from MySQL, since it's in memory, it's faster to retrieve these like key value pairs that would give you the data back. I don't know if it's going to say that. Redis stores data completely in memory with keyed value. Yep. Data structures leading to sub-millisecond rewrite speeds, whereas file requires slower disk input output operations. I think this maybe, so I'm gonna put hard. What's the difference between chunk, lazy, and cursor? So chunk, I know they just told me about this. What is the difference between chunk, lazy, and cursor? Chunk queries multiple has multiple queries and batches. Lazy uses the PHP generator but returns it into a collection stream. Cursor actually uses uh, the PHP generator to iterate over data without consuming so much memory, but it takes longer because it takes longer to actually retrieve the data, or the database connection will be longer if using Cursor or something like that. Chunks run multiple databases, fetching records in batches. Lazy executes chunked queries, and I guess the size is determining how many chunks you want within the query, and returns a single generating collection stream. I think I'm pretty good on this. Let's keep going. What's the difference between Laravel Sanctum and Laravel Passport regarding API security? You got me. Sanctum is a lightweight token-based authentication designed for spas, mobile apps, and simple API key using stateful cookies or long-lived bearer tokens. Okay. And Passport is an OAuth 2 server implementation serving supporting full grant types, authorization codes, dynamic client creation, and third-party API scopes. I definitely think they might ask me about different types of authentication, whether it's token based, OAuth 2. What is the other one? I guess basic authentication, which is like username and password. It's like OAuth 2, token based, which is usually like JWT. Um, then it's like basic authentication, which is username and password. What's another form of authentication? Isn't there something called like IDPC? I don't remember. I don't remember. But okay, Sanctum, token-based authentication, passport is OAuth 2. They might ask me this. How do you prevent API abuse or denial of service attacks in Laravel? Rate limiting, authentication, authorization. I definitely rate limiting, authentication, authorization. Those are the things I'm just thinking about at this moment. Okay. They might ask me this, but this is sort of easy. So Yeah, I'm just going to just put this as easy. What is the difference between index and composite index? Just I already mentioned this. Index would be a single column, whereas composite index is multiple columns in a specific order. So yeah, and the whole intention is to optimize the query performance. So I think I'm super good on this. What is cross-site request forgery, and why is it usually disabled for stateless REST APIs? Why is it usually for REST APIs? Okay, cross-site request forgery, from what I remember, if I can remember it correctly, you're authenticated in some type of app and it tries to, you go into another, I guess, site and it tries to perform an action that, I don't know, you try to perform an action as if you are the authenticated I don't know. Let me read it. It forces an authenticated user browser to submit a malicious HTTP request using stored cookies. Stateless APIs use explicit. Okay. Forces an authenticated user browser to submit malicious HTTP requests. So it forces an authenticated user to submit malicious HTTP requests. And in order to go around it, you use token based authentication, aka JWTs in a header, instead of auto attaching broad, making them inherently immune to CSRF. Okay, got you. I might get this, definitely. What is Laravel Octane? Did I just look at this? Isn't this the one where it was talking about how Laravel Octane boots Laravel into memory once, therefore uh, it makes it more performant because in the regular way to do it, every time you do some type of HTTP request, it boots up Laravel, but since it puts the Laravel application in memory once, is never going to boot up multiple times, which ultimately makes it more performant. Um, application so that boots your into and keeps it in memory across HTTP requests, eliminating the overhead of booting the framework on every request. Yeah, I get that. I'll put this as 10. Why should you use QJobs for long? What handles them in production? Okay, so it's Q jobs are for heavy operations. It's that image processing, sending emails, file processing. Um, Obviously, when things run for a long time, there's a possibility that they'll disconnect. So having Q jobs, it allows you to, if there was some type of, you send it to a worker and it fails, you can always retry it. And I think there was something the answer with production with like with supervisor something. Supervisor keeps them running continuously in the background. Yeah, you can offload these like heavy operations in the background, which makes the application run faster. Uh, Application run better, I guess. We'll put this at 10. Database connection pooling for high throughput. I don't think they're gonna ask me this. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna push this to off. Uh, and I think this asked me about like how does pagination impact database performance on deep pages and how do you solve it? Uh, how do I solve it? I forgot how I solved it. Let me charge my thing here. Traditional offset pages forces database to read and discard thousands of rows before returning a result. Yeah, that's why they required to key pagination or cursor paginate, which uses like primary or key stamps to speed up. the pagination process. We'll put this as hard. Go back. How does Redis improve performance? Yeah, it's an in-memory database. Um, I'm going to say I'm super good on this right now. I want to try to go through as many as I can, but I'm going back to the same ones. What are the critical production caching? I don't really give a damn. I just shouldn't say it like that. What is the chunk, lazy concert and cursor? So chunk creates multiple queries into, what's it say? Multiple queries into batches and returns it into batches, which keeps the memory low. Lazy. Oh my goodness. Why am I keep forgetting about lazy? I know lazy returns a generator collection stream, uh, and cursor returns uh, the data into generator, returns the data with PHP generator, so it iterates over the data without actually having to store it in like a data structure that might be consuming RAM, but executes chunked queries under the hood, but returns a single generator collection for lazy, and streams records by lowest memory input. Got you. That's good. Oh man, now I'm finally getting into a new one: mass assignment vulnerability and APIs. How do you prevent it in Laravel? Mass assignment, I would think by authorization or middleware. Vulnerability occurs when client payloads are passed, or you can use like a DTL or okay, form requests are passed directly into model creation methods without filtering. Oh, and then you can add like fillable or guarded properties on Eloquent. Okay, I got you. I got you. Or do validate input strictly with form requests. Yeah, I get that. But I haven't even got through 38 of these. I actually have 70 of these, and I should actually up the limit to 70. No, I actually have 62 in here. I have 62 in this particular deck. In this deck, I have 62, but I only have like 50 that's being shown, so whatever. In any case, I don't know if I'm gonna ace this interview. Even if I do, I don't even know if I'm gonna get chosen like that, to be honest. But I'm gonna end it right here.